Hello, everybody. Welcome to our next session. We are going to be talking today about control and risk reporting. Specifically, we have a fantastic panel ahead of us, with us who are going to be speaking about this issue. We have three polls running on this panel session. I'd like to encourage you to go onto them and multiple choice, fill in the polling answers, and we will deal with them in approximately 25 minutes or so and look at the answers and see where we go from. So control and risk reporting. I'll introduce myself first. My name is Tofpik. I'm head of technical analysis and senior markets analyst at ADM Investor Services International Limited, which is part of the Archer Daniels Midland Group, and we are the largest clearer in the non-bank clearer in the world. I'm also a director of the Society of Technical Analysts, which is the oldest and one of the largest such societies for technical analysts in the world as well. It's a not-for-profit organization. I'm happy to encourage you to look at that and maybe join even. And I'd like to introduce our panel. So first off, Mark, would you care to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mark Patterson. I'm the head of market and liquidity risk at Sucden Financial. We're an LME ring clearing member, and we also clear ICE Europe and ICE US and other markets around the world. My responsibility is for the market risk both of our clients and our proprietary business.
Very thank you very much, Mark. And Paul, would you care to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Paul Geiger. I'm the president and co-founder of Theorem Technologies. We have customers in 3 continents. They have users in 5 continents, and we gather data for them in all 6. We specialize in 2 main areas. Gathering analytics and data reporting, market risk reports for our users. And we also have an operational component, operations as a service, to provide expertise subject matter in such areas as risk, operations, legal, and compliance. Before that, my life was a chief information officer for a derivatives brokerage firm.
Thank you very much indeed. Adrian, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you, Eddie, and I appreciate the opportunity for being invited to this panel. My name is Adrian Carr. I work for Nasdaq. I'm the business development manager for the Nasdaq Risk Platform, which is a hosted SaaS real-time risk platform built using cloud-native technology, and it enables firms to monitor, manage, and mitigate risk in real time through flexible pre-trade, at-trade, and post-trade controls.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Alessio, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Alessio Pecorella. I'm the head of trade control and operational risk of Eni Trading and Biofuels. I have an experience of over 15 years in risk. And like my department at the moment covers all the products, crude and products for the Eni groups.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, the subject of our conversation is going to be control and risk reporting. Best practices to mitigate operational risk. We're going to split that into a number of areas, but the first thing I'd like to say is, what does that mean to you individually, control and risk reporting? Mark, can I start with you? What would that mean to you personally?
So control and risk reporting is all about getting the right information to the right people at the right times. Management need to be able to understand what those proprietary traders are doing and what exposures clients have through clearing facilities that we give clients, or through trades that the clients are taking on through us. So, it's about getting that information to those people as quickly as possible in an accurate format that's easy to understand, such that they can make better decisions about how they want to react to that information.
Thank you very much indeed. And Paul, what does that mean to you, control and risk reporting?
Right. So for market risk reporting, I think we've had some good discussions on that already, and certainly we could add to what Mark said, but I think that monitoring traders' activities and having a good data intelligence landscape of those potential exposures is very important and prudent. But also when talking more broadly about operational reporting and reporting measures, we're also talking about people, processes, in systems and making sure that we have the proper controls to mitigate any potential financial loss on those three areas that are outside of just the narrow scope of a market risk. Now, of course, it's all really related now, and I think we're seeing more and more that operational risk, credit risk, and market risk all kind of come together because the common denominator tends to be gathering more information and what we can do with all that information into one different place.
Thank you very much indeed. Adrian, operational risk, control and risk reporting. What does that mean to you?
I agree with Paul that it's really important to have it all in one place, and having it in real time matters nowadays. Having it in a single place which allows you to view risk across all of your asset classes, both client or house, makes a big difference. And having a system that is flexible allows you and your managers and your team to implement a framework that allows them to monitor whether it be any limits, any controls around, whether that be VAR, margin, your Greeks, your Delta, your Vega, or any capital calculations, and build controls around those to ensure that limits are constantly being monitored. And having a system that allows, it basically tells the people when someone is about to breach a limit, instead of people having to search in an embedded system to try and find out whether anyone is about to breach a limit. So you also got to make sure that there's data integrity in that system to ensure that you are looking at the right figures when you're looking at the system.
Thank you very much indeed. That's perfectly explains how it looks at from your point of view. I really appreciate that. Alessio, what do you think? What does it come from your point of view?
Yeah, so when people ask me what a trading organization needs in terms of framework, I always start from which are the base assets of a trading organization, and I go to, as Paul was saying, to systems, to people, and to organization. Then the entire framework and the framework on controls and the control system of the organization is what puts all these pieces together in this big puzzle. And of course, will need to be settled well and fit well for the type of organization that we want to put in place. So there is not a single recipe. There is like a single recipe for each single type of organization that are on the market.
Thank you very much indeed. And that actually segues very nicely. But before I go further on into that, we have a Q&A button on the bottom. There'll be questions and answers, which I'll happily put on audience. This is your panel. So you put your Q&As, your questions, and I'll get the answers to those from our panelists. So if you list those in there, I will look at them in a little while and start putting them towards our panel. And we also have those 3 polls, which will be running for another let's say for another 15 minutes or so. Actually, what was Alessio said nicely segues into something for you, Mark, which is control framework. We're talking about the involvement in the front office, how to make sure limits are understood, and what others are doing. Can you expand on that a little bit, perhaps?
I think one of the first things I'd say is to echo Paul's point, which is that risk management is more than just market risk management. It's more than just credit risk management. And while, you know, when Basel looked at risk, they said you should consider credit risk, market risk, operational risk. The more and more we look at it internally, the more we find that it's very hard to silo a particular risk into any one of those categories. You know, any risk you're looking at will touch 1 or 2 or even more of those categories. You know, anytime you set a credit limit, there's a bit of operational risk there. Will it be effective? If you're setting a market risk limit, well, that's, you know, going to become a credit risk question if the loss happens. So it's very important that everyone works together, and that there's an understanding that when you're setting a limit, say on the open position, it's not just about how big a position they could have now, whether they've got the margin to support it now, but it's a question of, you know, if that position does move, how quickly can we get the money back from them? How quickly can, you know, how much have they got to fulfill the margin call? All these things overlap and interact. So it's very important that, you know, anyone in front office who's dealing either with proprietary trading or a client trading understands that, you know, risk are not there to prevent them trading. We're there to help them. And create an environment where they can trade effectively in the way they want to trade, or the client wants to trade, while preventing trading behavior that's not beneficial to the firm or to the client.
I think that's exactly right, because there has always been in the past that sort of rubbing up against the front office and the risk department about that. And it's as long as they understand that the front office, that is, then or understand each other, I think, then that really actually benefits the company, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we never set risk limits in our firm without the front office signing off on them. They have to agree them. Now, they may want different sizes from what we're proposing, and then there's a negotiation, but we're not in the situation of putting a limit on them that they don't understand, or that they can't understand why that limit's been placed on the client. And that means that we found that adherence to those limits is much better because they understand them. It's about, describe what business you're doing. How would a good trader limit his business if he was doing that? What would he start to look at if it got big, if it got problematic? And we'll put limits there, right? That's how we'll put limits on, and we'll put limits to stop things that you wouldn't do, right? And that just means that they understand, and they buy in, and we're there, we're sat next to them, they listen to us, we talk to them, we understand if there's a problem, if they come up close to a limit because there's an error or because there's a particular set of client trading, we're happy to discuss that with them and discuss, changing the limit, correcting the position that's being used, or whatever, such that, they understand that we're not there just to police them. We're actually there to help them do better.
Thank you very much for that. Paul, you were nodding your head at various points there. What are your thoughts on this? Because I'd be interested to hear those.
Well, I think Mark makes some really excellent points, and I think that he's really speaking to another common denominator that we're seeing in a lot of these panels, and that is that collaboration is really an effective and important part of a risk management strategy to mitigate risk. I think traditionally, maybe the quote unquote legacy view of a risk manager was a really smart person who was a subject matter expert, and he directed things the way that he or she wanted to be done based on his skill level and knowledge. But really, I think in the last 5 years, we've seen a really full buy-in to an acknowledgement that the best risk managers, again, operational, credit, market, the best risk managers are people that have a more collaborative environment. They seek out more information from more different places, and they're less concerned just with applying their specific skill sets and more with fostering an environment that, you still obviously need your silos, and you need to have your divisions within the different groups to make sure that diligence is properly followed. But that never means that you can't employ a very effective use of communication, collaboration, data sharing, and data gathering into an effective risk management program.
Thank you very much. And I think those are very, very valid. We're moving away from the margin clerk to actually being a collaborative event, effectively, aren't we, really? So, Adrian, from a point of view of a market, what do you think?
I think Paul just mentioned a good point of data sharing and data gathering. And we found that the clients who use our risk system tend to also allow, although it's called a risk system on the tin, they also allow the account managers, the operations people, the traders to have access to our system. And that basically gives them one single platform where everything's stored. So there's no sort of human errors where a limit is breached or an alert has informed them that a limit may be about to be breached. And then you have to go into another system to do something. So from a technology perspective, I think having it all under one roof and allowing that collaborative approach where you allow other parts of the business to access the system definitely gives a more, I guess, a golden source, a single view that you're all looking at the same platform and dealing with the same information. So that's kind of from my view.
Thank you very much. And it's exactly what I think everybody else is saying so far as well, that if it's not in the electronic format, it's also in another format as well, that people actually work together in this. Yeah. Alessio, you're a user of the market. Your company is a user of the market. What do you think about this, this idea of the control framework?
I think that we should not forget the main purpose of the control framework. The control framework is something that is defined to make as a tool for the company to achieve its objective. So sometimes if we see the control framework as something that you add to the company, add to the front office, then is not digested well also by our traders. So that's why it's important to integrate it in the processes to make sure that it's definitely well shared and agreed. The framework is just to be like the rule of the games, the rule for the games to achieve the company objective. So that is a key things. Then of course, with the times, data is getting much more important. Sharing the data, sharing the information between departments. So like don't work anymore silos, like don't work credit, not talking to operational risk or not talking to market risk, because everything is connected. And history tells us that if there is this sharing of information, we will be able to catch things that are not wanted. And if there is a well-coordinated action within all the risk management function, we would be much faster. We would act well and more in a very efficient way to achieve also our front office objective, but never in silos, because we probably can achieve the single department objectives, but then we forget that the objective is to make the company reach the goal and not to make the goal of the single department. So I believe that that is a key part. And then I wanted to add also something that is very important, that each framework also needs to be adapted to the corporate culture. Each company with its corporate culture needs to develop something that is unique. Again, I go to the unique model, because if we go to an Italian company, a French company, an Anglo-Saxon company, I can bet that there are different ways of managing problems. So the framework needs also to don't forget these aspects, and make sure that we talk the same language, and we are able to communicate within the organization and share the same value and the same corporate culture.
So it's sharing the same value and sharing the same corporate culture, and realizing it's not just your desk and what you're doing,
exactly.
There's a wider world around you. Thank you very much for that. Now,
sorry, I was just saying we've got a question coming, and I think
I will be dealing with that one in a few months. I'm waiting to get the poll organized first, though. Please, we have a poll coming up, finishing in approximately 5 minutes' time. So please, more than one actually. We have 3 polls running for this session. So please put your answers on that, and then we'll discuss that in a few minutes. I'll call the poll in about 5 minutes' time. But Mark, before we go on to that, I wanted to one really area I wanted to talk about. We've spoken about the human element, the cooperation, the collaboration, and maybe even the technology element of looking at one single system for trying to do everything you can upon it, and one that talks with other systems if you wish as well. But technological support, I know that's going to be more sort of Adrian and Paul's area, but technological support, where do you think we'll be leading from here? Where do you think what do you expect from your risk platform? Simple as that.
Adrian, I'm sure will want to come in on this.
Yeah.
The risk platform should be your one-stop shop for the right information to make those risk decisions. And I think one of the important things to think about is the difference between, say, credit, market, and maybe bits of operational risk, which are generally real time, as separate from legal risk, discrimination risk, business change risk, which are generally not something where you're trying to make a decision in a very quick period of time. Those you've often got more lead time and more time to make a decision, so you've got more time to research information. So while your risk system, if you're using a risk system, you may want to have one sort of risk system for your real-time information. You may want a slightly different form of risk system for your longer-term projects, so your business change risks, your legal risks, your compliance risks, all of those. Now, you may want a single set of reporting on the top of those two things, and that's one of the things that we're building at the moment, is to build a sort of single point of management can have a look at this report, and it will give you some updates on your market and credit risk, which are all being updated in real time, and your other risks, which are maybe being updated weekly or even monthly if that's relevant. But they know they can go and look at this one place and find that information and drill down into it, and find the metrics that are driving that information, or the people to talk to get more information about that particular risk that's been raised. And I think your risk system needs to support both of those things. And it's very easy to talk about a real-time risk system.
Thank you very much.
It's not the only thing.
I appreciate that. Paul, I know this is your area, and Adrian, I'm going to be with you in a second, but Paul, technological support, can you give your ideas what you think can be done for operational risk?
Well, this is very interesting, and I think talking broadly about operational risk, it's really conflicting many times with what we're doing with these other areas of risk that we're talking about. So without taking away anything that Mark's speaking, just to use one example, one of the leading contributors in 2020 to operational risk is IT disruption, and one leading
just
risk
looking at what happened yesterday. Right.
Yes. And one leading a contributor to IT disruption is concentrating everything that you do into a single area or a single point of failure. So we have to make sure that when we address certain areas of our risk portfolio, that we're not introducing threats to potential other areas of more broadly speaking operational risk. Specifically in the kind of the new normal, as I guess we're calling it, we'll see what parts of it are normal and what parts are not. But I think at least what will be normal is a broader buy-in from more firms, not just banks, and the ability to quickly work remotely. So, talking about operational risk in the contents of these IT platforms, as it becomes more and more important to gather data from different areas, it also becomes more and more important to add and reinforce the areas of your operational risk platform with regards to fraud, data leakage, IT disruptions, business continuity, and the like.
I think that's absolutely valid. And the point you make about identifying your points of failure, that's really important, I think, to take away from that.
And that's something that you should do every year. I mean, the best advice I would ever give.
You should be doing it a lot more than that.
Right.
The world's been changing on when the pandemic hit on a daily, weekly, monthly, daily, weekly basis. So I think maybe once a year is a little bit pushing it, I think, these days. But fantastic what you've been saying. Adrian, I know this is your area, so I'm going to let you speak now. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we're seeing from an operational perspective, you want to be able to, in the current market anyway, allow people to access the environment from wherever they sit, whether that be on a train, at their desk, or wherever that is. So having the capability to allow a platform to be scalable and available through any medium is great. And having, from an operational perspective, you want to have tools in place that allow people to understand that the data they're looking at has integrity. So is there anything missing from it? You need the right tools to basically tell them that what you're about to make a margin call for your client, but I can tell you all those trades are in place now. From an operational perspective, it's all correct. We also look at, leveraging sort of machine learning. So AI can assist a lot better on scale, and it can better manage people's time. So from a machine learning perspective, are you going to let individuals look at specific shocks which impact the system, or are you going to let machine learning do that so they're able to more easily identify where proper risks are versus a human being having to search for them? So yeah, that's where we sort of see machine learning moving, picking up from a sort of a quantitative side, what humans won't be able to pick up.
I think that's very, very valid what you've said. And I think in that particular instant, the use of machine learning and then later on AI, no doubt, that's going to be very, very helpful for all the things that we're looking at for operational risk. Alessio, what from your point of view, what can you add to this situation? Do you think that has or reinforce whatever has been said already?
Okay, so technology, of course, is fundamental and is a tool that can make really risk management change gear. Artificial intelligence is one of the solutions, definitely, like for more the quantitative aspects. We saw also that technology like RPAs, so bots that and process automation, is something that can be used to improve process, to improve the efficiency of the process, but at the same time also to let people dedicate their time on the analysis of the results rather than the preparation of the activity, preparation of the documentation. And this is quite relevant because save time and allow to use the best effort within the FTE available. So that's very important. I would say also that I want to say that the system is the key point. The integrity of the data in the relevant system is fundamental, and from there you can start building up layer of reporting that can aggregate the data as you want. Because I experienced in the past that usually if you take the single system, they are quite rigid. So you definitely need to add some additional layer to let play with the result rather than stay in the reporting of the specific system. So especially in range of topics very different, like the one of operational risk, where we go from reputational risk to HR risk, legal risk, and so on. It's fundamental to put something in a system that let all these different components, very different between them, stay well together. So that's something that probably is quite advanced. Not all the organizations have already invested on this, but I see a lot of space, especially after COVID, to invest in that area and focus still on that area that has the direct result on the day-to-day activity.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, we have our polling results in, and here we go. Have you increased your risk control spending in the past 12 months? 67% said yes, 33% said no. I thought it would be more for the spending, but who knows? Have you changed, increased in brackets, your spending in risk control because of increase of work from home? Unusual about this, it's a three-way split. Yes, 30%, no, 40%, unsure, 30%. So it's fairly even across there, though I think the bias is towards no. Where are you looking to spend in risk? Monitoring was 22%, automation 33%, data collection 22%, not looking to spend at the moment 22%. So that's basically split across all three, with automation having a slight edge there, I think. Before I go on to that, I'm actually going to look at this question that we had from Elaine, which is an interesting one. It goes outside of the financial side, which we normally look at and then say, oh, it's the financial side. And we're all looking at the financial risk, but there is operational risk, can be other things as well, aside from credit and market risk as well. We have such things as people, processes, systems, management change risk, legal risk, sexual harassment, discrimination risk, reputational. Well, reputational risk covers all of that, really. And it's a quick question, and I'd like all of you to have a very short yes or no answer and then explain. And the answer is there an answer to all these risks and controlling the risks? And I'm sorry, Mark, but you're going to be first. Yes or no?
I think no, there's not one answer.
Thank you. We'll leave it at that for the moment. And then we'll see how much time we have. About 10 minutes, so I'll come back to that. Paul, yay or nay, or yes or no?
No.
Okay. Adrian, yes or no?
No, they're very different and should be dealt with in different places, in my opinion.
Alessio, what do you say?
I would go slightly different. No, but yes in the approach. So there are different risks.
No. You can't sit on the fence. It's a yeah. I mean, they've been honest. The rest of the panelists, they've said yes or no, maybe a few extra words, but that's fine. Yes or no, Alessio?
Okay, so if you want the straight answer, no.
I think that's fair. That's what I wanted. Now we're going to go through those in a little while, but I want to go back now to the poll. Is there anything that's picked out specifically, one point you'd like to pick out from there, Mark, on those poll results that you want to highlight? What are your thoughts?
I would guess that you're not increasing your spending and risk controls because of working from home. I would think that, you know, there's a lot of desire to increase spending on risk controls, full stop. And to be honest, I don't think being at home or not has really changed that desire within my business. And I can see that a lot of businesses would feel the same way.
I work in the same industry as you, and I agree with you 100% there. Sorry about that, but that's just a personal opinion. Paul, what are your thoughts?
I think it's interesting that kind of ignoring that middle one, but just looking at increased in risk control spending and how many of those want to automate. Because as I think we've spoken about a lot, automation tends to have the ability to reduce the cost of running your risk, or even better, maybe not saving that money, but reinvesting it in more prudent, interesting, and innovative ways in your risk control process. And so that's why I think automation and data collection is kind of part of that, really. Those are really sort of the same thing, are really important.
Thank you very much. Adrian, what are your thoughts on this?
The first one, to be honest, I thought people would have been spending more money on their control in the past 12 months. The numerous amount of prospects I've had on the telephone who couldn't speak to me because they were busy dealing with a defaulting client is quite untelling, to be honest. So I thought that would have been a higher figure. A lot of people have had to boost to their control spending over the last 12 months. That's my view.
Well, that makes me worried now, the number of people, because that leads into concentration risk, but I'm not going there just yet. Alessio, what are your thoughts about that? One particular thing.
But the first question, I don't know if this is more a perception or something really that happened, because definitely, like we needed a lot of IT infrastructure to allow to operate on a daily basis and to allow the framework to work as we were in the office. So probably we needed more solid infrastructure to allow thousands of people to work, to connect, and to be able to share their data. So probably this yes is connected more to the technological aspects that is needed to allow the day-to-day operations, because otherwise I don't really see a need for an increase in spending just for the work from home, given the fact that if you work from home, you lose contact with that corporate culture and you're missing something. So like it's very hard to get all together, like always virtually, and you definitely may miss some little aspects. But
it's a very valid point you've made, and I think it's been made across. Just because there's not extra people in the risk department doesn't mean there's not been spending on the risk department. You know, that's one thing that I've seen in my company. There's been a growth in spending in the risk systems, but the ability is that people have been able to do a lot more because of that. They don't need to have extra staffing to do that. So it's an interesting concept. Now we've got a really interesting question from Raina, which is, which operational risks, and Mark, this one's going to be starting off with you, I'm afraid, which operational risks will be reduced by digitalization? I know this is going to be Adrian and Paul again, I think, but which operational risks will be reduced by digitalization and which will be increased? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the operational risk that's going to go up is obviously your technology risk. You're relying a lot more on technology as a force multiplier to improve your monitoring, improve your data acquisition. You're not doing that with humans. We don't have people sitting there looking at the data by hand anymore. We've got systems doing it. So if those go wrong, you could have a bigger problem than if a human was looking at that who might pick up something that looked odd, but which was within bounds of what the automated system would pick up. I think the counter to that is that you're going to have fewer human issues with, for example, taking orders over the phone, SSIs being typed in incorrectly if they're being transmitted electronically. So anything where there's a human involvement in a process where you're automating that process, you're going to reduce the human element of the risk, but you're going to increase the the IT element of that risk. You're transferring, you're never going to get rid of it, you're just moving it a bit, and hopefully leaving the humans in a situation where they're able to make more important decisions than, daily just ticking off, is this less than that number?
Thank you very much indeed for that. Paul, we're running a bit short of time, so if you could sort of condense your answer, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. But if I can, I know you and Adrian are going to be the key ones on this one, but Paul, what are your thoughts on this?
I'll be very brief then, because I think it's a pretty easy answer. You're going to reduce your risk in third-party risk, in employee risk, and potentially regulatory risk. You're going to increase your risk with digitalization with IT, whether that's IT disruption, concentration, data leak, frauds, intrusions, and things like that.
I mean, if I could you'd send an email with those things on it, then I'd be happy to take that on board. That's really good. I appreciate that. Really do like that one. Adrian, again, key element for you. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd say your reliance on technology is leaving you in a higher state of risk, basically due to the facts that Paul mentioned there. But as far as reduction in risk, having a system which allows API connectivity to other platforms is definitely reducing multiple types of risks. So you basically having one system that can not only tell you who's on call, but also then maybe feed to a payment system where you can go and collect that call. So having flexible APIs definitely reduces the risk within the organization.
Brilliant, thank you. And Alessio, your thoughts? Again, we're running a little bit short of time, so what thoughts can you add to that?
Yes, definitely decrease in process risk, so the activity where there is a lot of human activity involved, and improving data integrity on this, while definitely be open more to risk like cybercrime and all the risk of integrity of technology. So definitely there is just a shift. I agree with all that.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay. We're coming to the end of our session at 17:25 London time. So in a few minutes, we're going to be having a post-event, first day event drink first off, virtual drinks, and there's going to be a presentation by a comedian. So I'm looking forward to that. Please log in and join in for that. But before we go, a quick 7-word takeaway from this event, please. And Mark, I'm sorry, but you're always first. What would you want people to take away in 7 words or less?
Successful businesses require collaborative risk management. That's less than 7.
That is 7. Yeah, I'll let it go. Paul, you're going to be good on this because I can see you straining and using fingers as well. So, where's your digital there? That's the digital you're using, the digits there. So what would you say in 7 words or less?
Thanks for the math problem on a Thursday. I appreciate that, Eddie. How about data intelligence now gains you flexibility later?
Yeah, that's 8, but I'll let you off with that one, I think. And Adrian, what would you say in 7 words or less?
Flexible systems accommodate new business growth.
Nice one. Well done. And Alessio, what would you say in 7 words or less that people can take away?
Data integrity and data sharing to achieve company objectives.
8, but I'll let you off because I've let other people off. I'm very happy with that. So thank you very, very much.